The second half of baseball is officially here. The Cubs take on the Diamondbacks at Wrigley Field. They start a series to open up the second half of play as they try to work their way back into both the wild card and the division conversations. Who's going to be on the mound today and for the rest of this series? We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about the Cubs and the Dodgers facing off in Tokyo to begin the 2025 season and which Cub is going to be joining Marquee Network over the next couple of weeks. That and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get in those comments. Let us know how you're feeling about this team as they begin the second half of baseball today. Here is your invitation to our show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. My name is Anthony Pasquale. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining us here on the Cubs Baseball Channel to talk some Cubs baseball. As always, on Twitter at @Ant_Pasquale3. And as you know, the Cubs Baseball Channel is also on Twitter at Cubs_channel. And you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, Cubs Baseball Channel. So find us on there, engage with us, interact with us, follow us there as we get into a lot of stuff on there as well as on this channel, trying to just always be talking Cubs on every possible social media service, streaming, channel, platform, anything that you can find. We're going to be talking Cubs, and we're going to lead off with this, an awesome story. Finally official. The Cubs are going to take on the Dodgers in March of 2025 to open the MLB season in Tokyo. An awesome experience for the Cubs and the Dodgers, probably two of the MLB's most marketable teams, but also two of MLB's teams with the most Japanese influence, which is why playing in Japan is going to be so cool. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, the best player in our sport, he's a Dodger. So is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is a new acquisition, currently injured, but was the prize jewel of this past free agent class. And the only guy that they didn't expect to be better than him is Shota Imanaga, and he's been sensational. He's an all-star. He's obviously a Cub who the Cubs can market and probably will have pitch over there one of the games, as well as Seiya Suzuki, who the Cubs have under contract for a few more years. Obviously toggled in some trade rumors right now, but factors to be a huge part of that week in Japan should he still be on the team. So you've got Suzuki and Imanaga, you've got Ohtani and Yamamoto, two teams with a huge following globally, and then two teams with a huge following specifically in Japan because so many former Japanese stars are now on these teams, the Dodgers and the Cubs. So what an awesome way for the MLB to kind of try to grow the game. I'd love to go. Maybe me and Mick can go out there and film some content in Tokyo. That'd be awesome. But I'm really excited to see how this plays out, and really excited to see those Japanese players in their home country and see what they can do. I'd love to see Imanaga pitch against Ohtani. I'd love to see Ohtani pitch against Suzuki and so on. So it'll be a really cool series. Awesome that the Cubs get to do this. I know they had the Field of Dreams game a few years back. They had the game in London with the Cardinals. Now they're going to Japan. So awesome for the Cubs. Speaking of awesome for the Cubs, Jon Lester, who obviously was the Cubs' big ticket free agent signing in 2015 that really propelled them to contention and was a massive part of the 2016 World Series championship team. He's going to be on Marquee Network. He's going to be calling a game with Pat Hughes this Sunday. It's going to be really cool to see the lefty back in Chicago calling some games, being a part of the Marquee Network, because I think what sometimes Marquee Network misses is just it's supposed to be a network by the Cubs for the Cubs, right? And for the Cubs fans. And what the Cubs fans want is to hear from more legends. And, they do a good job of interacting with some former players, but there's not as many legends on there. I love when Dexter Fowler talks. I love when Ben Zobrist talks. Let's get Jon Lester up there, see what he has to say. Obviously, it was a part of winning here and winning culture here. He's beloved in this city. It's going to be cool to see what he has to say on the air about this Cubs team. And then the other big piece of news from yesterday is that Seiya Suzuki's interpreter was let go by the Cubs. No word yet on why. I know obviously everybody's mind probably went to Ohtani's interpreter and how he got fired because he was under investigation for illegal gambling and stealing money from Ohtani's account to do that gambling. And whether or not you think it was Ohtani or the translator or the interpreter, excuse me, the fact of the matter is that two of these interpreters being fired in the same year is a little bit odd. And we'll wait to see what Suzuki's interpreter did or why the Cubs decided to move on from him. But that was definitely a big story from yesterday. But like we said, the Cubs open the second half of the season today, and they start this second half, the unofficial second half. Obviously, they've played more than half their games already. But after the All-Star break, the Cubs will begin 8.5 games back in the NL Central behind the Milwaukee Brewers, 3.5 games back in the NL Wild Card. They're tied with the Giants, the Reds, the Pirates, the Padres, and the Diamondbacks are ahead of them, as well as the Mets, Cardinals, the Braves are the other teams that the Cubs need to jump to eventually get into playoff contention, which according to Fangraphs percentages doesn't look great. A 10.5% chance to make the playoffs and a 3.4% chance to win the division. But we'll see if those numbers can climb as the week and the season continues. Cubs play the D-backs today at 1:20. We had some discussions about how the Cubs were going to decide to schedule their rotation to open up the second half. Now with 6 starting pitchers healthy, you've got Steele healthy, you've got Imanaga, Taillon, you've got Hendricks, you've got Assad, and you've got Wesneski. Well, here's your answer for the first 3 games. Today, it's going to be Justin Steele, the Cubs ace. Nobody's been a better pitcher than him for the last 2 seasons. He's 2-3 on the year. The win-loss record hasn't been indicative about how dominant he's been. 2.71 ERA on the season. He's going up against Ryne Nelson, who is 6-6 with a 4.98 ERA. Then on Saturday, the second starter for the Cubs after the All-Star break is going to be Kyle Hendricks, who is 2-7 on the season with a 6.78 earned run average against Zach Gallen, who is one of the National League's best pitchers, 6-5 on the year with a 3.87 ERA. And then the Cubs All-Star Shota Imanaga will go on Sunday. He's 8-2 on the season with a 2.97 ERA against second-year pitcher Brandon Pfaadt, who was excellent in the playoffs last year for the Diamondbacks. He's 4-6 on the year with a 3.97 ERA. Remember, this Diamondbacks team is a team the Cubs had some struggles with late last season. Is one of the big reasons they didn't make the playoffs is because the Diamondbacks beat the Cubs so many times down the stretch. Diamondbacks get in by a game or a game and a half over these Cubs. They go all the way to the World Series. When the Cubs played them early in the year, they took 2 out of 3 from them in Arizona and probably should have swept them. One of the games that they lost was a 12-11 game that the Cubs had multiple leads in and ended up blowing. So it's definitely a team the Cubs can beat, and they have their pitching lined up the way they want to for the series. So hopefully they can start the second half on the right foot. But that'll do it for us on the Cubs Baseball channel. Thank you guys always for joining us and talking some Cubs baseball. Make sure to like and subscribe, get in that comment section, follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, and as always, ring the bell so you know whenever we're dropping some Cubs content on here. But for now, go Cubs.